Hello, and welcome to the McTaggart Attack Football Podcast. I'm Kevin McTaggart, the host, and this new weekly episode of my McTaggart Attack Football Podcast, of my McTaggart Attack Podcast, as you can tell, will be dedicated to football. One football episode a week. You're welcome. Also, I'm sorry. I'll be talking about a couple topics each week. I have 2 topics that I'll be talking about today in this episode. So that's exciting. If you'd like to reach me, you can email me, mctaggartattack@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter @KevMcT, or you can find the Facebook page for the McTaggart Attack Podcast on Facebook. But like I said, this podcast is about football. I'm a big fan of both college and pro, probably more college. I'm a Florida State fan. I went to Florida State. I graduated from there, unlike most celebrities from Florida State who did not graduate from Florida State. Google it. So I'll be probably talking a lot about Florida State this season. Hopefully, unless they suck, then I will not be talking about Florida State this season. I'm also a season ticket holder to Boston College football, so I'll be watching a few of their games this season. But I am a Patriots fan on the NFL side, and I have been involved with fantasy football for about 20 years now. So yes, I'm a loser, but I'm a loser who thinks he knows football, so I think that makes me more than qualified to have a weekly football podcast. Because it seems like everybody else is doing it. It seems like the thing to do for podcasts is to have a weekly football podcast. Right? I mean, it just makes fucking sense to do that. You know? So, here we'll just talk about the topics that I was going to bring up in this episode. The 2 topics that I'll be talking about are Andrew Luck retiring and my thoughts on preseason rankings. So, enjoy. So, the big news this weekend was that Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck announced his retirement. It happened Saturday night. I went and saw Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast and the Furious movie, which was okay. Wasn't that impressed with it. It was funny in parts, but it was alright. Wasn't that enthralled with the movie. But anyway, I get home from watching Hobbs and Shaw, and I'm watching the second half of the University of Miami versus University of Florida game, and quite frankly, I could care less who was going to win that. I didn't really care. Wasn't really rooting for anybody. I was rooting for injuries in that game. I didn't quite get injuries, but I got some pretty shitty play. What a crappy game that was, huh? So I'm watching that, and as I'm watching that, I get a text alert on my phone, a couple, that said that Andrew Luck had announced his retirement. And I'm like, wow. And my dad's sitting on the couch, and I'm like, Andrew Luck just announced his retirement. And then he was shocked, and then there was an alert on the ESPN bottom line. Schefter, Adam Luck has announced his retirement. I'm like, holy shit. Like, oh my gosh. I was stunned at first. I was stunned, but I wasn't really that shocked by that news. I don't know. It's easy to say now in hindsight, but like I always had this feeling with Andrew Luck that he wasn't going to last as long as Peyton Manning. I thought Andrew Luck was the best quarterback taken in his draft, and he could have been the best quarterback in the league if he wanted to be. But apparently injuries have taken quite a toll on him the past 4 years. That's what he cited, because he said that since 2015, he's been in this vicious cycle of injuries and not being able to get back from them. And he swore to himself that, like, if injuries got in the way again, that he would just call it quits. And kudos to him for looking after himself. Because this obviously is not a popular decision amongst Colts fans. You know, and all the other haters that came out on Twitter about this. I'm like, really? Doug Gottlieb? Dan Duckich? I don't usually say this, and I'm not a big fan, but you two need to just stick to basketball. I know you have, like, radio shows, and people love the hot takes, but honestly, this just... No, not cool. And, like, the fans were booing him. Were booing Andrew Luck as he was walking off the field Saturday night. Because the news came out during that game. Because, like, the Colts were going to have a press conference the next day. And then Schefter found out why. Adam Schefter of ESPN found out that why they were having the press conference. And it was because Andrew Luck was going to announce his retirement. So the fans are booing him as he's walking off the field. I'm not mad at the fans. Fans can do whatever they want. They bought money for those tickets. They can do whatever they want. I may not agree with their actions. A lot of people may not agree with their actions. But they can do or say whatever they want within reason. Because there's conduct codes and stuff like that. And booing, perfectly acceptable. I have no problem with that. I blame the Colts management. I mean, Jim Irsay, for lack of a better word, is a druggie. Wasn't he arrested for possession of, like, a whole lot of drugs in his car one night? And he looks like someone who's been on drugs. He looks like someone who's lived a hard life. And he's lived such a hard life, living off his daddy's money, that his team is just so mismanaged. Like, you get Andrew Luck, who could have been the greatest quarterback ever, potentially. And you just have him, and you have nothing else to help him. But, I mean, he did great. He was a great quarterback. There are the numbers to prove it. I think he's the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in their first 6 years as a player. He has the best statistics. He's in the top 2 or 3 in, like, a few categories there. So he's had a pretty damn good career. But just like, yeah, the Colts totally fucked up on this. They should, if they knew this was going to happen, they should not have had him on the field at all. Or they should have taken him off the field secretly somehow so nobody would have seen him. You know, or just not had him on the damn field at all. What the hell are you thinking, Colts? It's just a dumb thing to do. But yeah, kudos to Andrew Luck for making his decision. There's never a right time to make this type of decision, though. Never a right time. He would have been scrutinized for it no matter what. But, he just... bodies wear down, and he didn't want to end up like Jim McMahon, probably. He didn't want to end up like any other retired player who's had to deal with CTE issues and concussion issues and injury issues and just have a hobbled life the rest of his... He'd been married, and he was about to have a child soon, and his first child, and he had that life that he was looking forward to, and he wanted to be able to live that life, probably, and kudos to him for making a decision like that. And is he a Hall of Famer? No. Based on the statistics that he has, he would have had to play a few more years, in my book, to be considered a Hall of Famer. I heard somebody say, well, potentially, he would have been a Hall of Famer if he had played. That still means he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. Exactly. Yes, he would have been a Hall of Famer if he continued playing for like 4 or 5 more years. He didn't necessarily have to win a championship, a Super Bowl, but yeah, no. It's not a Hall of Famer. Definitely not a Hall of Famer. According to me, anyway. So who knows? It probably means he's going to be a Hall of Famer, which is bullshit. But then again, Hall of Fames are bullshit anyway. So why do we even have this stupid conversation? I do have a theory that I put out on Twitter that night, and it didn't quite get enough likes that I would have liked. But my theory is, does he join the XFL next year? Just think about it. His dad runs the XFL, and let's just say, maybe he's rested up, and he wants to play again, and maybe he wants to get back into the football groove. And what better way to do that for a season than to play in the XFL? Of course, the offensive line will probably be pretty weak in the XFL, so it's probably not a good idea. But still, who knows? Let me be one of the first to say, maybe Andrew Luck will join the XFL next year. Don't forget that I said that because it's important. It's a good theory. Or it's a terrible theory when it doesn't happen next year. But still, I would not be surprised if he doesn't play for the XFL. I would not be surprised if he's hired by his father to do something for the XFL. Because he still apparently loves football. But now, if he's in the XFL and works for it in some capacity, he could still be involved with football, but not in the, playing part of it. So who knows? Who knows what'll happen? So yeah, that's what I think about Andrew Luck. And let's see what else let's get to my next topic here in the McTaggart Attack Football Podcast. Another topic that I want to talk about in today's McTaggart Attack Football Podcast pertains to college football. I have an issue with a few things in college football, like why the Big Ten is why the Big Ten is called the Big Ten even though it has 14 teams, why the Big 8 has like 12 teams. It's fucking bullshit that happens, but that's not what I want to talk about today with college football. What annoys me with college football, one of the big things, and it also pertains to college basketball too, or really most college sports, and it's just something that I don't quite understand, and it's the whole preseason ranking thing. You know, I don't understand why there are preseason rankings. I don't think there should be any preseason rankings. I mean, you're ranking teams that haven't even played yet this season. And you're just basing it on last season and stuff that's happened during the off season, and then you do preseason rankings. It just sounds ridiculous to me why they do that. You know, why rank anyone to start off the season? It's ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think they should rank anyone for the first 4 weeks, to be honest. Because then that gives a good barometer, a good collection of data to know who the best team is. Now, I know that, like, when they pick the bowl teams, you know, they wait, like, till October to put out the top 25 rankings or whatever. Their official top 25. The bowl committee. That committee does the rankings. But it's just stupid to me that we give so much weight to, like, preseason rankings, like the AP and stuff like that. It's just dumb. Why do we rank them in the preseason? I mean, I'd be even willing to wait until we know each team has played at least one game. You know, if you want to rank them, you know, wait until week 2. You know, when everybody's played one game, at least. You know, because I know there's a week 0 now, which is so fucking stupid. Why do we number the weeks at all in college football if we're going to have a week 0? Why don't we just have a week infinity and then the season never fucking stops? Huh? But yeah, just preseason rankings, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's just, I feel like it sets up disappointment for teams. It hinders some teams probably because they may have a low ranking to start off the season and have to battle all the way up. It's just stupid to me. There should be no preseason rankings. None at all. And if, like I said, if they're going to have it, I know that the bowl committee, like I said, does it after like 4 weeks or something like that. I know they started in October. They come out with their rankings in like October or something, which makes sense. But if you're going to have like the AP and coaches poll put out their rankings, don't do it until every team's played at least a game, and then do it. You know, judge them that way. It's stupid to have rankings for teams that haven't even played yet this season. It's just one of the many things that pisses me off about college football. And college sports in general, because the preseason rankings are just stupid. Don't have them. Have them start week 1. After week 1, going into week 2, so we know, so then we can tell who number 1 is and stuff. But it's like, I hear a preseason ranked number 1, I'm like, that means nothing until the end of the season anyway. Alright, well, that has been my inaugural edition of the McTaggart Attack Football Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it. I think I talked about 2 good topics here. Andrew Luck retiring, and the idiocracy of preseason rankings. I mean, what the fuck? And that's the bottom line if you smell what the McTaggart Attack Football Podcast is cooking. Hot